In this video, I'm going to talk about how I stopped hating God and resenting this life that I found myself in. Have you ever thought to yourself, this life sucks? Or have you ever flipped the bird to the sky to say, F you, God? Well, if so, I'm going to share with you how I went from a suicidal depression and hating God to opening up my heart and being at peace with this life that I find myself in, and why I no longer blame God for all the things that have happened in my life. For most of my life, my connection with God or Jesus was always up and down. I prayed and talked to Jesus daily, but often questioned him as to why I was in this reality that I found myself in. Growing up, my home environment was chaotic, and going to school, I would get picked on a daily basis. Seemed like everywhere I went in those days, someone had a problem with me. As soon as I turned 19, I looked to alcohol to drown out my reality. And for almost 15 years, that's exactly what I did. 2013, when I lost my mom 3 months before my son was born, I hit an all-time low in regards to my relationship with God in this life. I felt betrayed by a God I spent my whole life praying to. From 2013 to 2014, I quit praying for the first time in my life. In fact, the only time I would talk to God those days was to ask why he gave me such a shitty life, or when I was sticking my middle finger up to the sky. 13 months after losing my mom to cancer, pain in my heart was so intense that I started to believe it was never going to go away. On July 13th, 2014, I was sitting alone in my garage like I had done every day, except this time I asked myself a question that I never thought of before. I simply asked myself if I could see myself living with this amount of pain in my heart for another 20 to 40 years. The idea of that made whatever was left of my heart sink into my stomach. At that moment, I said to myself, I wish I could just exit this reality. That's when I heard a voice say to me, all you have to do is go start your car, come sit back down, and it'll all be over. For the first time in a while, I felt in control of something. Whether I lived or died was now in my hands. When my mom took her final breath in my arms, I had a sudden awakening. And I had all these realizations come to me. I realized my job was killing my soul, but I felt trapped by a mortgage and an obligation to provide for my family. I had a sudden realization that the marriage I was in was no longer healthy. Just 6 months prior to losing my mom, I'd asked my wife at the time if she would have my child. I became aware that I had so much healing to do. All my time was spent going within, as I had no time for other people. I formed a belief that I could never heal from the life that I was given, or that I could not change the person that I saw looking back at me in the mirror. The idea of ending my life actually felt empowering at the time. I started to review my life as if looking for evidence to support my decision to no longer be here. I thought about how I never felt at home here, or how I never felt like I belonged. I pictured the time my mom punched a hole through my bedroom door with a knife as a child, and how it caused me so much trauma that I passed out. I thought about the face of a guy who caused me a lot of problems in high school in regards to bullying, and how he made my life a living hell for most of my high school years. After picturing my family and apologizing to them, I came to the conclusion that the only way to find peace in this life was through death. The more I started to believe that ending my life was my only option, the more furious I found myself becoming at God. Got to the point where it no longer felt as if I was committing suicide, more as if I was murdering myself to get back at God for this life that I'd been given. As adrenaline rushed through my veins, I picked up my keys, and just as I started to get up, when Archangel Michael appeared and showed me that suicide was no longer an option. With no desire to be alive, and a belief that healing was not possible, for 9 months I went on the biggest drinking bender of my life. It wasn't until the summer of 2015, when I realized that my marriage was coming to an end, that I decided to quit drinking and see if I could save my family. And for 7.5 years, I never touched alcohol again. 2019, when my marriage came to a sudden end after a girls' night out, after getting a divorce, giving away half of everything I ever worked for, selling my beautiful home, only to move in with my dad at the age of 39, only to realize that a job and a career that I'd been working at for over 20 years was no longer capable of supporting me after I made my child support payments. With the idea of having to rebuild my life over again with no energy to do it, soon fell to an all-time low in regards to my connection with God. My hatred got so deep that eventually my guides would allow a fallen angel to attach to my aura. This is where I got to experience what real hell felt like. This helped me realize that our actions have consequences. And feeling that way that I did when that fallen angel attached to me for a long period of time in the afterlife was not something I was interested in. My journey to opening up my heart has been a bumpy road. If you hate God or this life, believe me, I understand. So what helped me go from hating this life, hating God, placing my etheric sword between the eyes of my old highest guide, to learning to open up my heart and be at peace with this life that I find myself in? It has a lot to do with a change in perspectives. Many people on planet Earth are angry at God. Why does he allow such evil to occur? Why do bad things happen to good people? Why did so much bullshit happen in my life, etc.? For me to find peace within, I had to change many of my beliefs about this life and God. For the most part, God is not responsible for all the bad things that happen to us. And on the flip side, Lucifer is not responsible for all the anarchy that's happening on planet Earth. Earth is a free will planet, and God gave us the opportunity to experience free will in this reality. One of the biggest lies they tell you is that Lucifer was kicked out of heaven so that we could blame all the anarchy on him and not take responsibility for our own actions. Example, making sense of people going to war. Next thing I had to realize was that I am a spark of God, and whatever beliefs I had about this reality would come true. Example, saying this life sucks over and over as a daily mantra was not doing anything good for me. One thing I realized after embracing the fact that we are a spark of God and we create our own reality with the energy we give off was that the reason why I hated this life, because I felt as if I got the short end of the stick. Seeing people that had way better lives than me, and I felt as if this life was a wasted opportunity. Holding on to those kind of beliefs would only get me more of the same. I knew I had to improve my internal dialogue if I wanted my exterior reality to improve as well. Understanding or understanding that we are all going to die, and that our time on this planet is short. And the things that you do while you're here are going to have a large impact on your afterlife, which is much longer than this life. Taking accountability for the person you've become, for the life you have created, is essential. Personally, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for all the energy healers and shamans I've worked with over the years. Plant medicines from mushrooms to ayahuasca. And for the most part, consistently connecting to Jesus and Archangel Michael and asking for assistance on my journey. Understand that you are a spark of God, and with this life that you were given, have an opportunity to ascend to a higher level of consciousness. If you think your life was or is shit, find a way to see how all the garbage you've been through has helped you to become a stronger person. That people in your life that have done you wrong are just there to help you grow. And whatever reason you have that you're holding on to that has convinced you that this life sucks is not good enough. When you hold on to resentment, anger, rage, envy, jealousy, greed, you only hurt yourself and those around you. The last thing that Jesus said to me on October 20th, 2020, when he paid me a visit as a soul when I was having a shower at my old man's house was, love is the key. And if you want to experience a more joyous life, that is the key. If you want to experience a better afterlife, that is the key. That's all I got. Thanks for watching.